Okay. All right. So this week, I'll share my computer.
I can do it.
Oh, you can share it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. Oh, that's right. You said you were going to. I was like, because I was really struggling with getting that loaded today. So, okay.
Yeah, my computer's acting up, so.
Did you get a download last night as well? Or an update?
No, my computer's just being dumb right now.
My computer wants to update. I just looked at it, so maybe I won't restart it for a while.
Yeah, I wouldn't update it for a while because everything on my computer freezes now. Okay.
Cool. So, talking about Hispanics today, says currently 1 in 6 Americans are Hispanic. 1 in 4 children under the age of 18 are Hispanic. And since the majority of growth in the Hispanic population comes from births and not immigration, this group is expected to grow in both size and political power over the next several decades. In the 2012 election, approximately 75% of Hispanics voted for the Democratic Party. Do you think that the growing Hispanic population will shift power to the Democrats in future generations? Why or why not?
Yes. I say yes. And I think that um, because I don't think they fully understand, if that makes sense. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because when you first move here, and so they don't want the wall built. They want people to be able to come in, but what they don't understand is any other country that you go to, you have to like New Zealand, you have to prove you have a job and a place to live before you even can apply for citizenship. So I don't know why that we should be able to give um, you know just allow anybody to come in. We should have some boundaries. So I think that as long as they're willing to, the Democrats are willing to not build a wall and to let anybody in, I think that's what it's. Uh, they'll continue to vote for the Democrats just because, but they don't understand that at a certain point. I don't know if you guys saw this, but I think somebody posted on the BYU uh, Facebook page about President Benson saying that something about you can't give away free money. Eventually, it stops. I mean, you only have, so what happens is you have like some people, that a whole bunch of people up here that are paying money into the everything, all the taxes, right? And then you have this group down here that's taking all the money, and eventually you're going to have more people wanting money than you have paying taxes. So the only thing you can do is raise taxes to keep it level. So at some point, you just can't give away free money. Greece proved it. That they had that total collapse of their whole economy. So anyway,
Yeah, I think I read something about that. But I also do believe that they'll continue to vote Democrat because, I mean, they're wanting like the equal opportunity. They want their families to come and be here and experience what it's like to live in America. Better jobs, better income, better, life that they don't, like Lisa was saying, they don't really understand. And so they're trying to, I don't know, make a better life for themselves, but they're not informed. And I think that on top of that, let me see how I can like articulate this. But I mean, if you think about it, like to a lot of like Democratic party members, they think that Republicans, they just want to build the wall. They want to take away gun rights. They want to, you know, restrict the United States of a lot of things, whereas the Democratic Party is, you know, free and stuff like that, where they can, you know, gay rights, you know, and enforce gun laws and stuff like that. But they also just want to be with their families, but they don't see like how it's affecting the rest of us. They're not informed of how the rest of the United States is impacted by all these people coming in and, you know, taking jobs, because like most people that come in, that like a lot of Mexicans are trying to cross the border, you know, and they take a lot of jobs and they aren't paid very much. And so that causes other people to not be able to have jobs, especially like working in fields and everything. Like I worked in a cornfield for I don't even know how many summers, like growing up. And, you know, they eventually called me and said, you know, we found enough people this year and we don't need to hire you. Like, we're sorry. And I was friends with that family's daughter, and they were like, oh yeah, no, my family just hired a bunch of Mexicans because they're cheaper, because they'll take less wages.
Oh yeah.
So, I don't know. It was very upsetting, but, you know, they get jobs because they work for cheap.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously will Democrat. As long as they're being promised entitlements, then they're going to vote Democrat. But that doesn't matter regardless of any ethnicity. You know, historically, you know, Black Americans also vote Democrat, and they have a lot of things that are promised to them as well by their either congressmen, women, or senators. So, with what both of you said is correct. You know, they don't really understand what's. Well, so the people who are coming in illegally don't really understand. However, the people who are here legally, I think some of them do understand.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had to go through the process. They had to, you know, do it the right way. And I think when they understand what the right way and how that process works, I think they have a better understanding of the country and what's expected of them.
Mm-hmm.
So another thing that and you don't have to type this in, but so in Texas, so number one, so they do promise, you know, Hispanic people entitlements, and they do promise them a lot of stuff, and so that's a big draw, and that's why they're moving them to all sorts of different places, so that they can, you know, turn every state to the Democrats, because they're the ones that don't. The Democrats want gun control. They're the ones that want, you know, their free health for everybody, but you know, they don't. No, but the people that are voting for them don't realize that free isn't really free. Somebody has to pay for it, and so I think that's the big thing is, you know, they're promised a lot of free stuff, and they just don't understand that at some point the free goes away, because, you know, if I get taxed too much, I'm gonna, like, you know, get rid of my house, live in my trailer, and work at McDonald's. You know, I mean, you know, I at some point, you know, you're gonna have people who can't be taxed anymore. So anyway. Plus, in Texas, we had the the Irish guy. Did you guys hear about Beto O'Rourke? Beto. Yeah, he changed his name to Beto because it was Richard, and he changed it to Beto so it would be more Hispanic friendly. So Beto O'Rourke, who, and I this boggles my mind, who got in, tried to do a hit and run when he was drunk.
Really?
And, yeah. Oh, yeah. And he was caught.
Wow.
And, and so it's hilarious because people still voted for him. He was willing to hit somebody, like hit a pedestrian on the side of the road and, drive off because he was drunk because he didn't want to get caught. So, yeah. Anyway. Okay.
Oh
Sorry.
my goodness.
People voting with their feelings and not facts.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Well, and he was, because he's all about free. I want to get rid of the guns. I want to have open wall, open border and, free health for everybody, free schooling for everybody, free college, Okay, well, somebody's paying for it. Somebody is. So he can offer free all he wants, but it's not free. So, I mean, college students were all over the fact that he was offering free education and tuition.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah, but wouldn't that like raise taxes and everything? Just
yeah.
like
Oh.
like you'll pay more no matter what you do. Like you'll have to pay something.
So my husband wanted to tell my daughter that free doesn't mean free. So when she graduates from college, because she graduates in the spring, if the Democrats get their way, we'll be paying 50% taxes because everybody that works will have to pay that much to support everybody that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So it'll be like you're working, you're supporting a whole nother family.
And then at that point, what's the point of you working?
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no
Why
kidding.
can't I take advantage of that too?
Yeah. Let me see. Let me quit my job and live in my trailer
Yeah.
and like work at McDonald's where I'm below the poverty level. So I have to get aid and help and, why not? I mean, at some point, then the government will collapse because there won't be anybody.
No one's gonna. Yeah, I was like, no one's gonna work. No one will be able to pay that, and everything will just shut down.
Yeah.
So Ronald Reagan once said that Latinos are Republicans, they just don't know it yet. Many political commentators note that since many Hispanics are highly religious, entrepreneurial, and value family, they are a natural fit with Republican ideals. From the characteristics you read about in this chapter, which political party do you think Hispanics fit with? Do you think this varies by nationality, i.e., would Mexicans, Cubans, or Puerto Ricans identify with the same party?
So I don't know if I could, what the book said would give me any ideas. I mean, I really think that they are highly religious and, they do have family values. So why wouldn't they vote Republican? I think that the reason that they vote not Republican is because of the offers that are made, the entitlement and the open borders that are promised, hey, free health care. I couldn't go to Mexico or Cuba and get free health care. Although they have really cheap health care, but anyway. But I think that's really true. I think that, if they really thought more about what they value, they would vote Republican.
They definitely do have like a lot of family values. I mean, from what I met, especially on my mission, I met so many Latinos, and they put family above everything. So they definitely do. And I mean, I noticed like in the younger generations, they typically they aren't as religious as the older generations, but they do follow a lot of customs, especially Catholicism and everything. But I mean, I've obviously never been to every Hispanic country out there. I've only been to one, but um, I think that there is a chance that they could, vote Republican if they were informed of both parties. And I think, because this is like would it vary by nationality? I think it might, honestly, because now please, I can't remember what the word is. Is it like American, like territory, like Cuba and Puerto Ricans? Is it like
Puerto Rico is the part of the America. It's
yes, thank you.
Cuba is Russian, so they're socialist.
Is Russian.
Mhm.
Okay, so I think like it would definitely vary by country or by nationality, because I mean Puerto Rico, like it's part of the United States,
Yeah.
and so they like they understand like the different freedoms and everything. Mexicans, I think that they would be more democratic because they don't want that wall. They want to be able to come here. I feel like it's harder for Mexicans because they're so close. I know a lot of Peruvians and Argentine people that are here in the United States, and it was a lot easier for them to come here than it was for the Mexicans that wanted to come here. They had to go through a whole, I don't want to say different process, but it was more extensive process. And so I do believe that it does depend on which country that they're coming from. And that, they obviously would identify with different beliefs, different customs, but, it also, like, their different desires. Like, do they want to come to the United States? Do they want to live here? Well, then they're probably going to be Democratic. But because Puerto Rico is already part of the United States, they're probably not going to be looking at like building a wall and like all these different freedoms, because they already experience a lot of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense. So I think when Ronald Reagan said this, I don't really think that he understood that the times that we would live in almost 2020, that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party really aren't the same party of when Ronald Reagan was a president. Meaning that Democrats are very socialized now and getting more socialized, and Republicans pretty much are the party of Trump right now. So if you're going off of just values, party values, then, yes, but at the same time, I think it goes deeper than that, as it goes to, what's the government going to do for me? Why am I coming to America? What's the jobs? There's more freedoms than I have in my country that I'm in, but I can also get on food stamps, and I can also, get government assistance for this and that. And I think that, once they're on those programs, one, it's hard to get off of them, and two, the Democrats want them to stay on those programs because it keeps them voting Democrat. So
right.
It's tough to, even though they might have those values that, same as a Republican would, they won't vote Republican because of those reasons. The very by nationality. I think it depends. I just think it depends on the person, I guess, or like if you look at Cubans, right? Like they're Cubans and Puerto Ricans, they're mostly down in Miami, and that's historically Democrat, like all the time. So and even in Mexico, Arizona historically has been a Republican state, but it's starting to turn purple, and even Texas, that's starting to as well. And there's a lot of influx of Mexicans coming into these border states, and Um, I think it really just depends on the person, but I think overall they're going to vote Democrat no matter what.
Yeah,
I can see that.
I agree.
The major political issues that have shaped Hispanic voting patterns tend to be deportation and immigration. How do you think a growing Hispanic population will shape policies in these issues in the future? I think right now, I don't know if you heard of that congresswoman in New York who got elected, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She ran on a very socialist platform and she won, beat out this like longtime Democrat who had been a congressman in that district. So, and she ran on extreme socialism, no wall, um, you know, free immigration, free healthcare, free everything. So, and that constituents of group in that district, liked that, and um, I think that's what you're going to see in the future. Is you're going to see more of that because they're going to come over here and they're going to say, well, we're entitled to this stuff. It's and it's gonna be tough because either we're going to run out of money and it's going to all collapse, or we're going to have other people come up and say, hopefully other ideas come about from other leaders and say, hey, that's just not sustainable. And hopefully people will put facts before feelings and understand that. But I don't know if that's going to happen.
I agree. I agree. I think that, you know, um, I think that they're going to vote for people who are against deportation and immigration. They are. That, and I think that they will shape the country uh, by their voting preferences, just because they will vote for people who are, you're right, more socialist.
It was interesting. So I'm taking a social stratification class right now as
Oh, uh-huh.
well, and um, we for just a brief moment we were talking about if the generations now are we more Democratic, are we more Republican, or are we like kind of in the middle where it doesn't matter what party, it's more of like looking at like who we're voting for, if that makes sense.
Uh-huh.
Like we don't identify with either party. And it was incredible. Like Stephen, we don't call him Brother Smith, sorry. So when I say Stephen, I mean my professor. But he said that he's taught this class about 20 years now, and 20 years ago he asked the same question, and only 3 people raised their hand saying that they don't identify with a party. But now we did this, and I think it was 3 people in the class that do identify with a party, and the rest of the class didn't. And so I think it's interesting. I mean, the world is completely changing, and I think with this increase of Hispanic population, I think nobody is really going to be identifying with a political party anymore, because like Mark was saying, it's not the same as it was when President Reagan said that, like they're Republican but they don't know it yet. It's not the same, and it's going to keep changing because there are so many platforms today that that doesn't really identify with either political party. And so I think, yeah, like the growing Hispanic population will shape policies and issues, like they will change, but I think it's just the whole country as a whole, like everything's just changing. Nobody really has the same, the values are totally different. Most people, are focusing on feminism and having a career over a family, whereas back then, I mean, my mom growing up, she wanted to be a mom, and I'm over here like, I want to have a career. I definitely want a family and everything, but I also want to have that career knowing that I accomplished something. And so, I don't know, I feel like it has to do with both, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes perfect sense. Both political parties are trying to court young Hispanic voters for future success. Currently, Hispanic voter turnout is low because many older voters are undocumented, while many eligible voters are young and low income, traditional indicators of low voter turnout. If you were a party official, how would you try to increase voter turnout among Hispanic voters?
So, well, if you're the Democrats, you'll go pick them up or go vote for them themselves. Just go vote for them. Wait. So so the Democrats will pick them up, and they also make it so that they can do early voting at locations that are closer to them, more centralized, if that makes sense. So, like, in Williamson County, there was like 20 places you could vote early. So it wasn't like you had, like every community had some place you could go vote early. And so it was close to all the low income housing, if that makes sense. So it was easy to get to if they wanted to. So, and so the other thing that at least Beto did was they sent text messages to every phone number they could find,
Mm-hmm.
telling people to go vote.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I never got one, but my husband got like 20.
Oh gosh.
So he didn't answer or reply. So they just kept sending them to him. And I did never get one. So apparently I don't have a good phone number.
I'm okay with that. I didn't get one either.
Yeah.
I'm like, please don't contact me, please.
So, I mean, we went and voted the day the polls opened. So when they opened early, because they I don't know about BYU Idaho, but Southwestern University had a voting a day where you could go and vote on campus. So they had polls open on campus. So
Yeah, they don't have that here. I don't know. Voting is very strange over here, being in a university. It's more complicated than it needs to be. But I think it just needs to be more accessible, like you're talking about how it could go to like low income parts and like housing. I just think if it's accessible and if the word gets out there and they see that it's important and that it could really benefit them if they vote, then I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't. I mean, I don't know if you guys are ever on social media very often, but I mean, I was on Instagram before like the voting, and I mean, everything was just like celebrities saying, I voted, I voted, I voted. And so if a person has access to internet and like social media, then they definitely would have seen and they will see future in future times. But I mean, everyone knows when it's time to vote.
oh yeah.
And I think like it's always out there. So I think if they're more accessible and if people realize that they can do mail-in ballots, they just need to know where and when and make sure that it's not so far out. I feel like they're like nowadays they're trying to make it a lot more accessible. I mean, here in Rexburg, there are obviously thousands of college students and residents, and I mean, just in this area, there were like 15 to 20 places to go vote because there were so many people. So, I mean, and the places were full, and I don't know. And it was a very fast process. I think that people also think like, oh, I'm not registered and it'll take a long time. It took like 15 minutes to get registered and to vote. So I don't know. It just help people realize just how simple it is. Be informed and, take the time to do it. And I don't know. I just found it a lot more simple. It was my first time voting. So I thought I didn't want to go at first because like, oh no, like this is going to be a super long process. I'm not extremely involved in political things just because I feel like it's losing its value. And so I think if people understood just like how important it really is and become more informed, then I don't know, they could. And like what you said too, Lisa, like pick them up and early voting, that's definitely a good idea as well.
So
Fear. That's how you increased voter turnout. That's how they did it this last election. It was the biggest midterm that they had as far as voters, and I think a lot had to do with fear. Fear of, on the Democrat side, they were, immigration, healthcare. On the Republican side, same thing, immigration, healthcare, but competing ideas. So I think the more fear that you have generated, either through advertisements or, campaign attacks, I think that'll get a lot of people to vote, just from that alone.
I think you're right. Fear is it's a high motivator.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. And I don't know, like it says, Hispanic voter turnout is low because many older voters are undocumented. Well, then they wouldn't be able to vote anyway. So.
Right.
It's a little hard.
Yeah,
I do have a hard time with. So, just on a side note, with the book glazing over the undocumented. No, it briefly mentioned that there are lots of illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
And it glazes over that. But I mean, that is a big thing. I mean, we accept. Okay, so I looked it up. Okay, so even though our professor says that we only accept 20% of all the of the immigrants in the whole entire world, we accept more, double, than anybody else. So our 20% is more than double any other country in the world. And some of it is like 2 or 3 countries doubled. I mean, added together doubled. So we accept a ton of immigrants. So even at our quota of immigrants, we're and it's 20%, we're still accepting a bucket load more than anybody else. So
yeah, if you just look at the sheer volume of land mass that America has, we're going to accept more immigrants than say Germany would, because they're a tiny country. I mean, they just don't have the room for all those people. Whereas
right,
we have the room, we have the resources. So and they don't. So yeah, I mean, it's just a numbers game.
So to me, for somebody to say we only accept 20%, that's outrageous, because that it makes it sound like, okay, everybody else is accepting more, but they're not. And they have and I don't think any place else has the same amount of illegal immigration that we do. They don't. Nobody else does.
Mm-mm.
Okay. So, and if you get caught in another country and you're not that, you're not there legally, they will kick you out. No questions, no argument, no question, no sanctuary city. No, you are just gone. Okay.
Yep.
So, wow. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry because I have a hard time with this, and I have friends who are illegal aliens, but I have a hard time with it because you know it it's illegal. It's illegal. So I can't in good I part of our values as being members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints says we're going to honor the law of the land. So I really struggle with this because I think that it's illegal. So
I always say I'm all for immigration as long as it's legal.
well,
Exactly.
right.
And I think people just make their lives so much harder. Like they're living in fear that they're going to be found. And it's ridiculous. And, they're unable to voice their opinion. They're unable to vote because they're illegal. They can't get like a real good job because they're illegal. Like, I don't really see the benefits. They can't get like good health care and everything because they're illegal. They can't really do anything. So I don't understand.
No, there are ways for these people to get all sorts of stuff. So
They're
please.
too smart for me then.
So
I just see
okay.
no reason.
So I have a friend here. We're gonna have to stop this because it'll be